anybody in these not-for-profits that make $300,000 and $400,000, they should be limited to making no more than the governor. And I put a bill in. Let's see if we can get it moved. I have a very weird one, but it's really good. It's based upon the federal government's idea that states should have representation, even the small guys, like that's why you have 2 senators, even in Alaska and such. This happens, Bill won't like this, close your ears. There's 62 Senate seats and there's 62 counties. We should do what the federal government does. We should have 1 senator per county and let the assembly be apportioned based on population. We would then apportion New York City out of this immense amount of power that they have. Now, will they ever look at it? No. But it's the really right thing. I was riding home one day and I said, 62 counties, 62 senators, New York State could really, and they did have it at one time. Okay, let's see. Independent panels to do redistricting. You can make some differences. It's very, very important. There is movement to do that. Hold a People's, which was stated by Tom and also by John, People's Constitutional Convention. Yes, it is 2017. My leader, Brian Kolb, he's the head of the Assembly Republican minority, has pushed that bill. We've been pushing it for years. And yes, you cannot have anybody who's either been in government or currently in government to sit on that panel. The day I went to Albany, I picked up the bill on what was talked about before. It's called Initiative and Referendum, which allows the people to bring forward the ideas they want, and then we vote upon it. Now, the sad part is the last time the Constitutional Convention came up for a vote, it was voted down by the people because those people you talked about, the labor unions, went and lobbied against it. I'm going to talk about schools. We need to reform school tax, how it's done. I also, if you're parents of school-age sports players, close your ears, because I believe that those $200 shoulder pads and shirts should be paid for by the parents of the little darlings. Except for the kids that really can't afford it. I'm not out to hurt them. If you take AP classes, gives you extra credit. You take it in school, you should pay. Because guess what? Your parents are saving money. Let them pay 3/4 of what the cost would be if they went to college. Immigration. We need a long-term solution for the people who have been here long-term. I am not going to throw somebody out who's been here 25 years. But anybody else, out of here. Because we cannot afford to be taking care of people. Our law today says you cannot ask a person in a hospital or in a school if they're illegal. So every child can walk into the school district. We have people that are trying to get their kids into certain schools, but all that the illegal has to do is move in the district and say, here I am. We should be learning. I'm a co-sponsor, a lead sponsor on English only. We should be speaking. I actually had a bill that would restrict welfare to people and their first 2 children only. We should not be supporting people with 10 and 12 kids. The real way to solve Albany's problem, and I'm going to tell you right now, I've been there 20 years. You can call me a lifelong politician. Term limits are not the answer. If you have term limits, you lose good, strong people, and you end up putting your government in the hands of the staff. You don't want that. Thank you very much over there. What you do want to do is you want to, even on the federal level, the state level, you need to have our executives, our president and our governor, have a 1-6-year term, no fundraising. They have nothing to be giving away because they aren't going to be running for office for second time. That's good. Look at year-round schools. Done in California. And there's 2 reasons. Number one, they use the school buildings year-round. But second of all, what they do is the kids go to school for 3 months, and then there's a month off. Then 3 months and a month off. You don't lose that 3 months in the summer. Everybody has a month off in the spring, the summer, and the fall. But you also allow your school buildings to be utilized greater. And revamp our tax exemptions. Bill Larkin can tell you more about it. We have tax exemptions for everything, and I'm not after the star rebate, but I am after those people who are quasi-religious exemptions or charitable, and they really aren't, and they're taking their property off the tax rolls. There's 450 acres in Blooming Grove that is now owned by Sun Young Moon's friends, and they took it all off, and you know why? Because they say that the residents there have to wander, their monks have to wander through the woods. We need to reform the whole system, and if it takes having people, even in the churches, to pay 25%, because we have become a nation that has all these exemptions, and guess who's paying for them? You and I. Now, I'm sure that's close to 3 minutes.
Question time, yeah.
Yeah, but let me just, I serve in a place, I serve in the New York State Assembly, 108 Democrats, 42 Republicans, the brightest and the best. But we serve with people, and then I'll let you take it from here. Their idea of hunting is to ready, fire, aim. Go ahead. Yes.
Hi, Kathy Shashio.
Hi, Kathy.
For a couple of years now, there's been a cauldron simmering up in Albany called the gender law. Is everyone familiar with what that is?
No.
What it is, from my understanding, is a gender identity law where, say, this gentleman here decides one day that he wants to be a woman, and so he can go into a girl's locker room, a woman's bathroom, and do anything he wants. If I go in to protect my daughter against this gentleman, I will be hit with a hate crime. And this has been, like I said, simmering in Albany for a while. What is your stand on
My
that?
stand is very much opposed to it, but I serve with a group of liberal people who, when we did the bill, which I voted against on same-sex marriage, had 2 people stand up and say they had just their partners had just called them to invite them to get married, and they were so thrilled. We have forgotten what our true values are. And I can't answer that. When the person's halfway through their sex change, maybe we are going to have somebody say we have to give them a 3rd bathroom. Put them in those handicap bathrooms, because at that point, truly, they are neither. But we go out of our way to do the stupidest bills to protect every single iota of people who common sense would just tell you, go in and use that disabled bathroom where you're not in with little boys or little girls.
Now, I understand that this is also being pushed on the federal level, and with states' rights, would we be able to counteract what the federal government is doing?
That's a very good question, because as has been stated, anything that is not delegated to the federal government can be done by the state. But if they delegate that themselves to the federal government, personally, I don't think they'll ever pass that, because even our Democrats in the southern part of this country have enough common sense to know what's right and what's wrong. But, you know, Albany is an interesting thing, where the one place you can get Sheldon Silver out is by having a constitutional convention, and you change the laws. Right now, a man named Michael Bragman did it 10 years ago. He tried to do that. He had enough votes on a Wednesday, but by Monday morning, Shelley had twisted so many arms that Michael Bragman couldn't get the right number of votes. He got this little closet for the rest of his tenure, and all the people that stood with him lost all those committee assignments. They lost half of their staff, and he ruled with an iron hand. Right now, I have a bill. You're going to hear about it, because I want to name, it's a home rule measure to name a small part of Route 218 between Cornwall and Highland Falls after General David Petraeus. And there's one man in the legislature, not Sheldon Silver, this other guy is David Gant, and he's from the Transportation Committee, and he will not put my bill on an agenda. And if that goes on an agenda, it will pass. So we're going to have to get all the veterans and all the Army people up in Albany, and we're going to have to do what we did. The only way we got Megan's law was Megan's mother from New Jersey came in. The only way that we were able to say our state was against burning the flag was, in protest, was to get the veterans to march. They listen when their own constituencies are affected, and they may lose. That is the real problem in Albany. The MTA tax was pushed through by 3 Democratic men from New York City in a room.